we'll get started in just a few moments. We're just lining up all the patterns and materials so we can show you and demo that in just a few moments, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, thank you so much for bearing with me. For some reason, you clean, you move stuff, things weren't where I wanted them. But this is the pattern we're going to be working on, getting all of our stuff prepped to actually do this. The idea is to make a few of these for Christmas presents. We're going to be sticking to the one in the upper right hand corner, that simple round snuffle mat. Now, based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like you can make it a drawstring to make it more closed, harder for them to get to, or a flat one. So that's pretty creative. This is a simplicity pattern, S9445. There's 19 pieces total in this pattern just because it gives you the bed, the couch cover, and the larger snuffle mat. We're just going to be using the smaller snuffle mat today to get us going, and then in the meantime, here's a baby. This is Cora. For those who don't know, she's about 5 months old. She's just the baby of the family, but this is our newest Ruby Cavalier. So, of course, we get her spoiled rotten, as always. So we're going to grab our pattern. We're going to pull it out in just a moment. I'm going to get a couple other cameras kind of set up so you guys can get multiple angles of what we're doing. But if you don't have this pattern, don't worry. They're really cheap at some of the craft stores right now. I won't be able to send you all the measurements of stuff that I'm doing, but I'm definitely going to try to walk you through as many of the steps as I can. As I said in earlier videos, I'm not the best sewer, I'm not the best crafter, but it's an adventure I want to share with you guys. So we're not in the dugout and we're not up in the man cave today. We're actually in the living room because holiday season, having a tree in the background seemed very fitting. So, because that's our goal, to get these out for Christmas time presents. I'm going to switch back to the title cover of the package clip. And then we are going to get some fabric laid out here in a moment. I did get some felt rolls from the Dollar Tree. I don't think they're a full yard, but I got my little measure mat. We can measure these out. So I got black, white, and red. I thought that would make great Red Sox colors for our dugout. I was trying not to stick with Christmas colors just because Christmas stuff. Oh, you can see Poppy in the background. Poppy, we're up here, honey. Just trying not to do the theming snuffle mats just because I feel like when it's not Christmas, I gotta put it away. So completely up to you of what crazy fabrics you go with. I think it also said somewhere on here that for the C plate mat, which is the smaller one, you would need 1 1/8 yards of a color, 5/8 of a yard, and a contrasting base and some interface, which we're going to be Googling that through this whole project, making sure we have everything we need to start making some of these. But first things first, since the snuffle mat and the other mat aren't like dog sweaters and stuff where it's got multiple sizes, this is a great starter pattern for us to get our feet wet with because we can cut right down the pattern and not have to worry about saving the other measurements for when we want to do other sizes. So that's the benefit of starting with a package like this first, where it's like a one size fits all. So we'll get the table cleared out, we'll get the measurement mat out, and we'll see how much fabric we have to see if we can pull this off or at least get some started today. We will be posting by the end of our stream when our next show is going to be. I kind of wanted to do Sundays just because it's a great way to get started. Unfortunately, we're a Wisconsin family, so football games might get in the way, so it may be a Sunday morning or Sunday evening show, but at the last 15 minutes of every episode, that's where we're going to have a little timestamp card so you'll know when that next show is officially going to be, so you can tune in and help finish these projects. I also wanted to show you, before we get the cameras and stuff all set up here for the kids, we were doing that crocheted sweater for Cora. So we did the neck, we measured right around the bulbous of the head to get a nice tight snug fit around the neck so it stays nice and warm. We did expand out to the larger, broader portion of the chest and belly to get that. And then when we put in the armholes, making sure to measure all the way to the bottom of the armpit. So you get that full access to get their paws easily and out of the garment. That's very cool. We did go about 4.5 to 5 inches for the chest and belly under the arms. And then I was kind of winging it for the rest of the tail. You can kind of see what I did here. So I wanted to do a little bit of an increase to try to get something a little bit more frilly for the base. And you can see I kind of got some weirdness going on. So I started by doing, you can see in this row, let me get zoomed in here really close. In this row, I started to do a back to front, top of hole, and then grabbing the post to try to give it a little bit of a waver type of feel. And as soon as I did that, I was like, it's not standing out enough to give it a cool princessy flair to it. So as soon as I went to the next row, I actually tripled it to 3 posts and then 2 on top to give it more of a flutter feel. And I slowly did increases, 1 increase to each side as I progressed the rows to give it a little bit of a flare out. I'm probably going to do, I think I measured that I wanted about 5 to get all the way to her tail. It doesn't have to get all the way to her tail, but I think I'm going to square it off for at least 1 or 2 more rows and then call it done, just so it gives it that overall little princessy feel. I did end up folding over the collar to give it a more polished look. I might go back and do a little bit of a, not necessarily a scallop look, but maybe incorporate some of that original edging pattern to give it a little bit more of a polished edge so it doesn't look so straight there. Okay. I'm not going to do sleeves. The original pattern I'm basing this off of was from a knitting pattern where they actually took the hooks in there, made holes, and actually protruded sleeves out. It's hard enough to get dog's arms in clothes. If you don't have to have sleeves, I avoid it. You can always make them cute little leg warmers later or something, but clothes are hard enough to get dogs on if they need it versus an unnecessary element. So that's what we got here. We'll definitely keep you up with the progress on that, and then I will show you how I got those double crochets in there with that front and back type of effect later, so you can kind of get the feel of how I got that little roughly type of look, which I kind of digging. Wasn't sure if I was gonna like it once I started going, but definitely liking it now. So, all right, I'm gonna open up the pattern and we'll get going on that in just a few moments. getting there, folks. So like got that camera set up so you'll be able to see the different fabrics we got. I'm gonna come over here and show you. I don't necessarily know what an interfacing fabric is, but we might try this. I found this cute like puppy fabric. Also again, just from like Walmart in that little by the yard section. And I fell in love with all these puppies. I thought that could be something we could incorporate there, but not sure how that's going to work with this pattern because I think I've only followed one other simplicity pattern in my life, and that was to make a Dorothy Wizard of Oz dress. So as you can see, we're just unfolding all of these pieces here, and we'll have to go through them to see which pieces we need for that size C snuffle map. Usually you'll get direction pages. They gave us a lot of directions for this kit. We have 2 full fold-outs of directions. That looks like for the larger cat, so we can ignore that one for now. That's for the Z and C. Okay, so we're looking for C's. So it looks like there is an interfacing base C and then the snuffly part on top. So I guess in theory, I don't know how it will work. If you didn't want it to have that flower petal collapsing or decompressing part, you might be able to leave that part off. But let's stick with exactly how the pattern says and go from there. So, small bit, small bit. Okay. C and D playmats use piece 13 and 14. So no, pieces 13 and 14 will be needed for both of those. The instructions we don't need out of the way first. And it's going to be a lot of opening these all up to see which pieces are inside which. This is the hard part for me, is because you gotta really open them all up to really see where all the numbers of the pieces are. What did I say? 13 and 14 is what we're looking for. And I did see a 13 here. Oh, this isn't too bad of a piece. So 13 here. You can see, make sure it's on camera good. Here it's got center fold line. So usually when you get patterns that say center fold lines, it's usually you're doubling the fabric to get a mirrored image. Let me go grab my full crafting scissors. Scissors action. I thought we had them out, but evidently I don't. I don't know if any other crafting people have issues with their husbands stealing their scissors, because I do. Usually I buy a new pair of scissors every time I find one in the kitchen, because that usually means he stole it for food. So I'm not cutting specifically on the line right now. I'm using a definite gap on these just because a lot of simplicity patterns give you room for seam lines and stuff. I do recommend, if you plan to not do a pattern once and be done with it, to trace the pattern onto another material and use that, and try to keep the ones with all the directions as much as possible so that you can keep it pristine. So we got piece 13 cut out. And then we were looking for piece 14, I believe. Yes. giant pieces. Here's a 12. This does say 12 placemat C. This is the one we were looking for. So we're definitely going to cut this piece out too. Making sure not to cut any accidental lines into the other pattern edges. Oh, and if anyone heard that, that is my older Ruby asking to go potty with his outside buddies. Let me grab the other camera here so you can see that, because he is so adorable when he does that. Make sure this camera's set up. I'm getting better at remembering to make sure everything's on the proper Wi-Fi network before doing. Will you wait? I'm going to film you doing that because you're adorable, but you got to wait. Everyone wants to see you hit the button. Right now my house is a mess, so thank you for bearing with me. Let's make sure we got multiple camera view up. That one's up and loaded. Don't need. Yes, sweetie. All right. Now you can hit the button, Poppy. Now everyone will be able to see you. Hit the button. Now tell me what you want. Show me. Okay, now we can go outside. Nice sunny day outside. All right, go run, play. Everyone can see you. Great day. Great temperature. Yes, yes, yes. You're all nuts. Okay. So yeah, that was Poppy playing and those kids. Get back to just crafting. I'll put them back on once we get them back inside, but got lots of pieces to cut out. That's why I blocked out most of today for doing this crafting stuff, because crafting is definitely not for the light of heart. We gotta schedule time to have fun with crafts. So this says Playmat C, and it looks like it's got another centerfold line to get it symmetrical, so you'll trace that on the fabric to get center. I can already tell that fold one fold of interfacing. So this is for the interfacing fabric. So I'm believing this 12 is what we're going to use for the round base with all the doggy pictures. This fabric isn't meant for circular visualization, so there's always going to be a top and a bottom. Because it's a circle, I'm hoping it doesn't matter too much as long as I do that symmetric side evenly on their dog's head, so that when it's split center, I'm not cutting them on an angle. Last thing I'd want to do is cut off one of the puppy heads on an angle. That would look weird. All right. Still looking for piece 14. And this already gets into the directions. This talks about the different pockets and stuff. Let's see what this piece is. This says number 3, but this is a gigantic piece. I'll put this on the floor for a second just so we can see. Since they're nice and conveniently outside, they won't run over my delicate tissue paper at the moment. I can get at least all the pieces individually cut out. It'll be a lot easier to figure out where each piece goes. I'll trim it down. And also probably put them in number sequence just so if the directions say go to 1, 2, 3, or 4, I have them almost in sequential order to figure it out a lot easier too. This is piece 10. See, I got a lot extra to cut off later. But as long as it doesn't have any pattern on it, we're going to grab a garbage bag and kind of put all the extra scrap pieces out. What I do want to show you, let me move the camera this way. There's this giant piece on the floor here. From here to here is all playmat deep. The bigger playmat does look a little bit more intense, but I didn't realize it was that big. I knew it was a bigger placemat, but looking at it flat on the ground lets me know it's going to take up a lot of floor space when it's built. That pieces for the large cylinders. That's for playmat Z. I'm not using my good fabric scissors right now because I'm just, like I said, I'm cutting tissue paper. So any old scissors will work for cutting tissue paper. There's 18, 11. I do gotta say, simplicity does really good at giving you those nice guide arrows so that you know how to line stuff up. Pocket, small cylinder. I'm still not finding that number we were looking for. We were looking for what number? For playlist. We were supposed to be looking for piece 14. We got 12 and 13. I'm still looking for 14. So since I don't see it on this map, I'm gonna fold this up carefully right away. I was kind of getting ambitious trying to cut out everything, but for your guys' time and mine, we're going to skip that bunch and try to see if we can eyeball what 14 is. Oh, I think I just found it. It is a big piece, so I'm hoping we got a big enough piece of felt to do this.
All right, it does say page 14 here is grassroot C and for D, so it's used for both patterns. These pieces we won't use, so I'm going to carefully fold these for later use with the other ones. Another reason why I like to copy the cutouts onto other paper, such as like butcher paper or something, because it makes them a little bit more durable than the tissue paper, and a lot easier to fold sometimes when storing them back away. Small bottom, so that's for A, that's for A, that's for A. So the rest of this sheet is all for pattern. Pattern A looks like it's these big flowers, petals for the doggy bed. I say flower petals, there's kind of actual flower petals, but it's the, I think for the different layers on the inside. Looks like here's where instruction for the large mat starts. This type of supplement reminds me about, I don't know if you guys remember that whole blanket fad. My aunt got really into it. It was a blanket fad where people were getting these pattern fleece blankets, and you would do the slices along the border and do the knots to tie it off. Those were really cool to watch her make, but I never officially made one myself. But I do feel it's got a similar vibe to that. There's someone parked outside. It's working. Give me just a moment. I was gonna do some video for you guys of Disney at Joey's class today, and did not realize that she was going to feel my anxiety from some other stuff. So unfortunately, I don't think she had a good time at class today. She had a lot of anxiety there. Normally, she'll just get a little bit of anxiety as the excitement of doing it, and then once we get there, she's usually fine. And she's never had a problem before of any anxiety. But just this last year, she's kind of built up a little bit of anxiety. And I fear she's getting uh, backlash from my anxiety, and I really don't want that. So, none of these pieces we need either. Okay, so if my directions are right, this whole little circular mat is just 3 pieces of the pattern. If I'm reading this correctly. Doesn't really give a good, here's where B starts and A starts type of thing. It does give right here really good sewing directions. Read general directions before you begin. Sewing methods shown in italics are defined below. So interfacing. Pin fleece interfacing to wrong side of a project sections as instructed in sewing directions. Machine basting fleece in along 1/2 inch 0.1 or 1.3 seam lines. Make sure that was an alert on my computer I was supposed to be paying attention to. I think we're good. Oh, that's my hubby messaging me that he passed his testing to go help donate plasma. So yay! Always for a good cause. Interfacing narrow hem stuff, ease dash stitch, ladder stitch. So it gives you all the breakdowns of ease stitch is a loosen needle tension slightly with right side up. Stuff, everyone knows what stuffing is. Ladder stitch is a sewing method by hand. It starts with bed A, like without what we're doing. We need to find where C is starting. Chair cover, placemat, 1414. Well, it looks like I have to do a couple of these 14s if this is correct. So, based on this picture, I have to line up 14 this way several times. 4 times, and then the 13 in the corner, which is this one. Doesn't say anything about 12 yet there. See, contrasting base, use piece 12. So it looks like we use piece 12, this one, for both the contrasting base and the interface. Yeah, there's no cylinders in V other than 13. So yeah, looks like it's just those 3 pieces we need. All right, we're making progress, guys. All right. Based on what I'm reading, folds here at the bottom. This is a long piece. And I do always recommend ironing your patterns before you start actually attaching them to your fabric and doing your official measuring, because you want to make sure it lays flat to give you the most accurate measurement. That way you don't have lopsided pieces and things getting weird. So here's the fold. So ideally, I don't think our felt's going to be long enough to do this, but in theory, if we do white, I want to see how big this piece is, see if it's even big enough to cover it. And it's not. So based on what we need to do here, unfortunately, for the 14 pieces, it'd have to be this times 2 in length, because we would need that fold line on the bottom so that it's doubled. So we won't be able to make this today because I don't have a piece of fleece big enough to do the 14 pieces. And it looks like I need to replicate that 1, 2, 3, 4 times. They line it up on the diagram like this to help you save fabric, so you know what pieces need to be cut out. And if you're using something with a pattern, having something all lined up like that can help keep consistency. Since we can't do 14, and we'll probably not have enough fabric to do 12, that's a big circle that needs to be folded twice. Yeah, it's too narrow. Even if I fold it this way, it's not going to be enough to do the circle folded. So definitely we'll have to go back to the store to get that. But this is just giving you an idea of how much fabric we're actually going to need. So when it says, you know, you need 1.5 yards of something or a full yard, the dollar store is not going to be our best option for that. However, this is for that center cylinder in the middle of the pocket. This, we should be able to use that contrasting color for that, for this. So I think what I'm going to do is make that in this red. So how I have this vision, since we need 4 14s, in theory, if I alternate it white and black in the middle, and this red be the center cup, it'll kind of look like Red Sox colors. That's what I'm hoping. But we should be able to make this easily out of the 13. So that'll at least give us something to work on today as cutting and manipulating if we can get just one of these cylinders pre-cut out and done. That'll give us a good starting brace of something to work on today. And then we can do more at our next show once we get that larger pieces of fabric, which will be great. Trying to look at my calendar too to see when we can do our next show. Because I would really hate to promise you, like I did today, an earlier show and then have to push it back. Let's see. And we got, you know, Thanksgiving coming up really soon on Thursday the 27th. So that's not next week, but it's the week after. Let's aim for the 23rd. It's a Sunday. Let me just double check if there's a Packer game. All right, so the next Packer game is a unit game on Sunday the 23rd. So let's shoot for that Saturday morning, the 22nd. We should be able to get to a craft store then and get that squared away so that we can get now being Saturday, it'll have to be another noon show again because of the Adobe class. So we have that updated. So you'll see the next show November 22nd at about noon. That's when we'll start the next show. Cool. All right, we got a date plan. Again, like I said earlier, we'll make sure to flash that at the end of the show once we're done streaming. Or at least getting as far as we can with the material we have. And go from there. Nothing on there is about that. Okay, here we go. They started the playmat directions way at the bottom of this page, way at the bottom of the chair. Okay, so here's piece 13's picture. I'll make sure you guys can see that on camera really good. Let me bring back up my phone camera so I can really just
help you guys eyeball that better. Let's see. There we go. So there, now you can really see it if I hold it. So here's our piece 13. Here's the fold line. So when we fold our red fabric, that's where we're going to have the fold. So it's going to be double this length. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this part we can cut today. You'll notice, this is the one part that bugs me about simplicity stuff, is they have the triangles pointed inward instead of outward. But when you see them on here, they're outward. The problem I have with that is because people assume these triangles are cut lines based on the dark edge, which is also on the border. You do not want to cut these triangles out because then you're cutting into your fabric. In most cases, it won't be a huge deal because your seam line is going to be on the inside. However, they want you to be putting the spikes on the outside so it doesn't affect your seam line. These are just to help you line it up so you get that full symmetrical round effect. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right, let's see if the other puppies are done. That side. You guys wrestling in the driveway again? Oh, as you can see, the girls love playing with each other. Okay. So back to the directions. It did say playmat C and D on here, piece 13, which is where we're starting off. So even by holding off on buying the fabric till tomorrow, I'm still following the directions in order because luckily it says start with piece 13, which we do have enough fabric to get that going right away. Oh, lovely tea. All right. To reinforce all seams, stitch again over the first stitching if you prefer. So, in other words, stitch once, stitch again. Make sure it's a really tight, secure stitch. Being that it's a thing for dogs, I highly agree with that, just because dogs can be rough with their toys. You can never have too much stitching. With the right sides together, stitch the end of the cylinder 13. Fold cylinder in half lengthwise along the fold line, base draw stitches together. So first, let's get this sucker cut. I am going to be very careful
to cut just outside these black lines. The cool thing is since I do plan to make multiples of these and I have extra fleece, I might use those other white and black pieces to make a whole bunch of these 13s. That way I just have them ready to go to piece together for the next snuffle mat we make, if that makes sense. So taking a more mass production route. I'm shaking a little bit because I haven't eaten yet, and that is all my fault. Not to go all therapy on everyone, but evidently I get so wrapped up in stuff I forget to eat, and it happens. So as soon as we're done here, I'll go grab a snack. It does make cutting a little bit harder when your only thing you've digested is caffeine. Not the smartest option on my part. Also want to get my ironing board up here because, like I said, it's better if you iron these pieces so they're as flat as possible before cutting actually onto the fabric. I've seen people use pins or some people who have weights for doing projects and just make sure things are weighted down to do a cut. Because this is a very square piece, we might try to just weight it down. They do make things specifically for, gosh, my hands are shaking kind of bad. Shoot. Specifically made for sewing. They look, I saw it on someone else's video, they're big circular weights to help press things down. But really, in theory, you could use anything, even the old stick pins. The only reason I want to try this project away from stick pins is because I notice that little bit of bubbling effect sometimes can affect measurements if you're not a good pinner. So do keep that in mind as well. If you're not precise on things don't fit the way they're supposed to. Kind of like baking. It's a chemistry project where everything has to line up exactly for the right puzzle piece. Otherwise, you can't build with it. So we got our 13 piece cut out. We're gonna make this first one out of red, but like I said, we're gonna hit it with the iron first. So I'm gonna grab the ironing mat and iron and bring it right to you guys. Instead of us traveling everywhere to get different pieces, I'm gonna bring it to you. Okay, so good news and bad news. Evidently, when I put my new washer and dryer in, it blocked in me getting to my ironing board. So we're going to go downstairs, steal a different ironing board from the craft area made for my t-shirts. And then we'll use that instead. Was not expecting that to be blocked in when we put that in, but that's how long it's been since I've been crafting, almost a year since my last big sewing project. So thank you guys for
helping inspire me to get back into this. Come on, fur babies, come inside. I know it's nice outside, but why don't you come inside? No, still want to be outside. It's such a gorgeous day, they just want to stay outside all day. All right. Like I said, this was originally made for my Cricut and doing t-shirts for t-shirt making. So it looks like a giant t-shirt. Get some water in this thing and get going. A little bit. There we go. Some water in her. Well, that didn't go as smoothly as I wanted, but it's in there. Make sure it's heated up to whatever we need. Oh, here's the dial. That's what I was looking for, the dial. Nice low setting. While we're waiting for that to heat up, let's see if we can switch back to my phone and add phone to outside. I don't know if it's going to have sound while we go out there. Yeah, all the piles of toys they have. We'll go try to chase out the dogs and see if we can get some video of them playing. Oh, there, Poppy.
So yeah, I don't know if you could hear me out there, but Cora got her nickname of Cora Beans from being such a tiny little thing when we first got her. She would roll up into the tiniest of tiny balls, and I started calling her Cora Beans, and it just kind of stuck as her nickname. And it's heating up. It's not like hot, but it's definitely heating up, which should be enough for us to iron this flat. Hey, come on. Here. Oh goodness, they saw someone on a bicycle. That's definitely a lot smoother. Oh, shit. Too much water. All right. It's nice and flat. I got big creases out. Should be good. Although it curled a little bit on that end. Don't want that. There we go. Maybe if we can turn it from this back side, it'll be a little bit better. There we go. Now, I don't know if fleece has a right or a wrong side to it. Someone's going to have to tell me if it does, because I've never heard of fleece being wrong or right-sided. So, I think I should be able to get 2 cylinders per color easily out of this. You can see there's plenty of room there to cut that out and still have lots of wiggle room. So you get the iron put up. I'm not going to hit it on anything. And then grab my Cricut mat. I say Cricut mat, it's made by Cricut, but it's not the Cricut mat that goes in the machine. It's just a cutting mat. So I believe the one I got is self-healing. So what we're gonna do is once we get this laid out, real full line there. Is we're gonna place our heavy objects and we're gonna just use our cutter to see if it'll cut through those. Grab some heavy objects for it. I might actually opt for doing pins just because I don't have fabric weights and I feel like this isn't going to be good enough to really get an accurate line. Yeah, we're going to use stick pins. I was trying to be creative. And should be downstairs. Another option you can always do if stick pins aren't your thing, you can always buy these washable fabric pens. Cricut makes them, but there's a lot of companies that make washable marker pens. And I think that's what we're gonna do is do one pin here. Just to give us our edge. And we're gonna hold it down and trace with the fabric pen. I wasn't sure how it was going to draw on fabric. Can't remember if this one was air soluble or water soluble. Some pens start disappearing on air contact where you don't need to wash them. Some of them you actually have to wash. So depending on how long you need it to stay on there, be wary of those different types of things. I'm gonna pinpoint my triangles here. There, that's the piece we needed. I know some people use these, some people use the just a pair of scissors. We're going to try this just so we can try to get as smooth of a line as possible. I don't know how I want to go about this. I did cut through both layers, so that's exciting. Now all I got to do is take the scissors to cut out my pretty triangles. And not with those scissors, those are dull.
right. There we go. All right, so we got our felt piece. The right size. We got our arrows in there. Step 1 is done. Now, like I said, if you're doing mass production and you want to make multiples, cut out as many of these as you want. We do have to take a break in order to get the bigger piece of fabric for the next step. So thank you for bearing with me for that. We'll probably take the scissors here and clean up these little little scruffy parts of the felt, just because I try not to be cutting my tabs off with the cutter. There, that looks better. It's all going to get hidden with the seam anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But replicate this step for as many snuffle mats as you want to make with us. We'll get to step 2 at our next crafting session. So this is exactly what we'll pick up for next time. I'm going to make as many of these as I can with the felt we do have, and we'll see you back next Saturday to go on to the next step, or we'll have to bring the sewing machine and other stuff up here. Another thing that I think we're also going to try to do next week, if I don't get the fabric in time, is dog advent calendars. So a lot of people in our scentwork class was eager to see different places have doggy advent calendars, and not all of them are refillable. Not all of them are for the whole month of December. So that will be another goal. We might back burner this temporarily just to get a start on the advent calendars, because those you want to start at the beginning of December. These, since they're a Christmas present, we might back burner this for a week and jump over to the advent calendars. But we're still going to at least get you caught up to this stage so you can at least see any progress we made of how many different sets we're making. Let's see, full one. But we did get this far. So yes, so make as many as these 13 pieces as you want for different snuffle mats, and we'll catch up with you guys next week. I'm gonna put the title card back up there so you can see our next show date. It's gonna be November 22nd at noon, so same time next week. Yes, you're inside. Now that you're inside, you're inside. You're not gonna come in and out. You don't want the heater running. We'll pick up right where we left off next week. Hopefully the purple sweater will be done next week, so you'll be able to see the finishing edges on that and get you all caught up with finishing off of how to do that last little bit on the sweater. And if we decide to put a finishing collar on that, that will all be next week, starting at noon. Thank you so much for coming out to Ruby Cavalier's Dugout. We'll be editing some of the videos that we took today at agility class. I still gotta get consent forms from the other dog parents to post it on our channel that gave verbal consent, but I officially feel better having everything in writing. So we're going to try to get that in writing so we can post that next week as well. So you'll get to see Fitz, who is a Shih Tzu Dachshund mix running agility course. We're also going to have Judy, our instructor, anytime she gets on that topic of educating. Today it was about false advertising about breeders and stuff like that, of different registrations. So once I can film and get a stand out there at class, we'll get better quality footage of that and help pass that news on to pet parents who need to hear different things about emergency vet cares and choosing a dog breed that's right for you from a reputable breeder. All the fun talks and knowledge that she has, so that we can actually pass that along to people who need to hear it. All right, we will see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.